On a frigid winter afternoon, Donald Trump, wrapped in a dark overcoat, opted to walk through the bustling streets of Manhattan rather than ride in his usual motorcade. With his security team trailing behind, Trump's gaze swept over the city's raw and unscripted rhythm. The biting wind urged pedestrians to bundle up, but Trump seemed unfazed, driven by an inexplicable urge to immerse himself in the heart of the city. Turning into a quiet alley, he slowed his pace, his attention caught by a lone figure slumped against a wall. Chris Harper, draped in a tattered jacket, Chris exuded a quiet resilience despite his dire circumstances, a sight that would set the stage for an unexpected and transformative encounter. If you like inspirational and engaging stories, please support us by liking, subscribing, sharing the channel, and leaving a comment below. Wishing you a peaceful and joy-filled day. Donald Trump's attention was drawn to a homeless man slumped against a cold stone wall, his tattered military jacket a faded reminder of his service. A cardboard sign at his feet read, "Veteran in need of help." The man, Chris Harper, sat with an air of quiet defiance despite his weariness. Intrigued by the scene, Trump signaled his security team to step back and walked toward him. As he crouched to meet Chris at eye level, Trump extended a hand, initiating a conversation that would soon change both their lives. Chris Harper, a former Marine from Echo Company, shared his story with Donald Trump, his voice rough but steady. He had served multiple tours in Afghanistan, a time marked by intense battles and unthinkable sacrifices. "We did things I'll never make peace with," Chris said, his gaze distant. "But we did them for our country." Despite his pride in serving, returning home had been an entirely different kind of battle. Chris recounted how he struggled to reintegrate into civilian life. Jobs were hard to come by, his physical and mental health declined, and he found himself battling a system that often left veterans like him behind. "You think there's help waiting for you, but it's a different story when you're on the outside," he admitted, his hands clenched tightly together. Trump listened intently, his expression unreadable yet focused. Chris continued, explaining how his unit, once celebrated as heroes for their resilience and courage, had been scattered upon their return, each member facing their own challenges. Chris's voice faltered as he described losing everything, his home, his connections, and eventually his sense of purpose. "It all disappeared when I came back," he said quietly. "The memories, the people, they faded, and I just got lost." Yet, despite the hardships etched into his weathered face, a flicker of pride remained when he spoke of his unit's accomplishments. Trump, moved by Chris's story, took a moment before responding. His gaze lingered on the faint medals still pinned to Chris's tattered jacket. He saw not just a man in need, but a symbol of countless veterans who had faced similar struggles, sparking an idea that would soon transform Chris's life. As Chris Harper recounted his time in Echo Company, Donald Trump's expression shifted from curiosity to deep respect. Chris's unit, he explained, had earned recognition for their remarkable service during the early, grueling days in Afghanistan. Known as the Phantom Team, Echo Company was celebrated for achieving what many thought impossible, their courage and determination leaving an indelible mark on the battlefield. Hearing this, Trump's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of admiration crossing his face. "You were part of Echo Company? The Phantom Team?" he asked, his voice tinged with awe. Chris nodded, his posture instinctively straightening at the mention, though a shadow of sadness tempered his pride. "Yeah, we were good," Chris admitted quietly, his voice trailing off as the weight of what followed their heroics pressed down. The gravity of Chris's story hung heavy in the cold air, but Trump's resolve seemed to solidify. He saw not just the hardships Chris endured, but the honor of a man whose sacrifices were emblematic of a larger, often unrecognized struggle among veterans. It was clear to Trump that something needed to be done. Determined to make a difference, Donald Trump took immediate action to help Chris Harper. After their heartfelt conversation, Trump ensured Chris had a safe place to stay, arranging temporary accommodations at a nearby hotel where he could have privacy and begin to recover. It was a quiet morning in the hotel's lounge when Trump sat across from Chris, the warmth of their coffee cutting through the lingering winter chill. Leaning forward, Trump spoke with determination. "Chris, I want to do more than just give you a room or a meal. I want the world to know about Echo Company, what you and your team have sacrificed for this country." Chris, his hands wrapped around his coffee cup, lowered his gaze. His voice, still rough from years of hardship, was barely above a whisper. "I'm not sure people want to hear about that, sir. Some memories are better left where they are." The weight in his tone reflected the deep scars carried by those who had seen too much. Trump remained silent for a moment, considering Chris's words. Then he shook his head firmly. "Not for them, Chris. For you. For Echo Company. What you did shouldn't be forgotten. People need to understand the courage it takes, not just on the battlefield, but to survive after it." Chris looked up, his tired eyes meeting Trump's steady gaze. For the first time in years, he felt someone truly understood the depths of his struggle and the significance of his service. Slowly, Chris nodded, the faintest glimmer of hope breaking through his hardened exterior. In the following days, Trump's team began discreetly reaching out to members of Echo Company, gathering stories and preparing to honor their service in a meaningful way. For Chris, this marked a turning point, not just in his life, but in how veterans like him could begin to find recognition, respect, and a path forward. It was more than a new start. It was the beginning of restoring dignity and purpose to a life once defined by service. The White House was abuzz with anticipation as a solemn ceremony unfolded in honor of Echo Company, the unit once known as the Phantom Team, for their extraordinary valor in Afghanistan. Chris Harper, now a symbol of resilience and courage, arrived at the event in a simple but well-fitted suit. His steps were hesitant as he approached the venue, his gaze sweeping across the grandeur of the scene, still finding it hard to believe this moment was for him and his comrades. Inside, the atmosphere was dignified and reverent. Rows of chairs filled the room, and the warm light of chandeliers cast a glow over the gathered audience. As Chris entered, the room fell silent. Slowly, his fellow veterans, many of whom he hadn't seen in years, rose from their seats, saluting him in unison. The weight of their unspoken respect was palpable, bringing a flicker of emotion to Chris's otherwise stoic expression. Donald Trump stood at the podium, his tone resolute, yet filled with emotion. "Today, we honor an extraordinary individual, Chris Harper, and the brave men of Echo Company. Their sacrifices on the battlefield and their resilience in facing life's invisible wounds remind us of the debt we owe to our veterans." As the room listened intently, Trump's words cut through the silence, emphasizing the heroism of Echo Company. He then invited Chris to the stage. As Chris rose, the audience erupted into thunderous applause, a sound that resonated through the halls, carrying the gratitude of a nation. When Chris reached the podium, Trump carefully opened a velvet box, revealing a gleaming medal. Draping it around Chris's neck, he spoke with deliberate clarity. "For your courage, your sacrifice, and your unwavering service to this country, we honor you today." Chris stood there, his shoulders squared and his breathing uneven, as he tried to hold back tears. Around the room, his fellow veterans saluted him again, their pride evident. For Chris, this moment wasn't just about recognition. It was a powerful reminder that his sacrifices and those of Echo Company were deeply valued and would never be forgotten. At the conclusion of the White House ceremony honoring Echo Company, Donald Trump stepped forward to make an announcement that would change the lives of countless veterans. Standing at the podium, his voice carried both conviction and a sense of urgency. Today is not just about celebrating bravery. It's about taking meaningful action to support the heroes who have given everything for our country. Trump outlined a comprehensive initiative aimed at addressing the key challenges faced by veterans: access to quality health care, stable housing, and meaningful employment. He emphasized that the struggles Chris Harper and his comrades endured upon returning home were far too common and required immediate attention. No veteran should ever feel forgotten, abandoned, or alone, he declared, his words resonating deeply with the audience. To ensure the initiative had lasting impact, Trump announced the establishment of a new support fund named after Echo Company, a tribute to the unit's extraordinary service and resilience. The Echo Company Veterans Support Fund would provide tailored assistance to veterans, offering mental health care, transitional housing, job training programs, and financial aid to help them rebuild their lives. Turning to Chris, Trump extended a hand toward him with a smile. "Chris Harper, your story is not just inspiring, it's a call to action. You've shown us the strength and resilience of our veterans, and I can think of no one better to lead this effort. It's my honor to appoint you as the director of the Echo Company Veterans Support Fund." Chris stood speechless, his eyes glistening with emotion. Slowly, he shook Trump's hand, the weight of the moment evident on his face. The room erupted in applause, the audience recognizing not just Chris's courage, but the significance of this new initiative. Veterans in attendance nodded in approval, many visibly moved by the announcement. In the following weeks, the fund began to take shape under Chris's leadership. His first-hand understanding of the challenges veterans faced brought authenticity and purpose to the initiative. The fund quickly became more than just a program, it became a movement. Through this effort, veterans found not only tangible support, but also a renewed sense of hope and belonging, a testament to the lasting impact of one man's story and one leader's commitment to making a difference. Chris Harper's life took a remarkable turn following the White House ceremony and the launch of the Echo Company Veterans Support Fund. Once a homeless veteran struggling to find his way, Chris now found himself at the forefront of a national movement to support those who had served. Appointed as the fund's director, he quickly embraced his role, dedicating himself to amplifying the voices of veterans and ensuring they received the support they deserved. At first, the transition was daunting. Chris was not accustomed to public speaking or the spotlight. His first few appearances were marked by nervousness. His hands trembled as he gripped the edges of the podium, and his voice wavered as he addressed audiences. Yet, as he shared his story, his struggles after returning from Afghanistan, the loss of his health and stability, and his eventual encounter with Donald Trump, something shifted. The raw sincerity in his words resonated deeply with those who listened. Veterans saw their own experiences reflected in his, and civilians gained a newfound understanding of the challenges faced by those who serve. Over time, Chris's confidence grew. Each speech became an opportunity not only to advocate for the Echo Company Fund, but also to inspire hope among veterans who felt lost. He spoke of brotherhood, resilience, and the importance of finding purpose after service. "The battle doesn't end when the war does," he often said. "It continues in the quiet moments, in the struggle to find yourself again." His words struck a chord, drawing standing ovations and heartfelt applause wherever he spoke. Through his advocacy, Chris became a symbol of what was possible when veterans received the support they needed. He traveled across the country, visiting veteran centers, shelters, and hospitals. At each stop, he listened intently to the stories of others, offering not just words of encouragement, but tangible solutions through the resources provided by the Echo Company Fund. Veterans who had once felt invisible found themselves heard and understood. Chris also worked closely with policymakers, sharing his first-hand experiences to push for legislative reforms. His efforts contributed to new initiatives that expanded access to mental health care, increased funding for veteran housing programs, and created more job training opportunities. His testimony before Congress was particularly powerful. As he recounted the challenges he faced after returning from war, lawmakers were visibly moved, some even wiping away tears. His voice, once silenced by hardship, had become a force for change. Despite his growing public presence, Chris remained deeply grounded. He made it a point to personally connect with the veterans the fund supported. Whether shaking hands, sitting for one-on-one conversations, or attending small community gatherings, Chris ensured every veteran he met felt valued. His empathy and unwavering dedication became the foundation of the fund's success. For Chris, the most meaningful moments came when he saw lives transformed. He watched as veterans who had once been lost found their footing again. Some secured stable housing and jobs, others reconnected with their families and communities. Each success story reinforced Chris's belief in the importance of the work he was doing. "This isn't just about me," he often said. "It's about all of us. Every veteran who has ever felt forgotten, every family who has struggled to support them. Together, we can create a future where no one is left behind." By sharing his journey, Chris inspired countless others to come forward, to seek help, and to share their own stories. His transformation from a homeless veteran to a leader and advocate was not just a personal victory. It was a testament to the power of compassion, recognition, and purpose. Through his efforts, Chris Harper didn't just rebuild his own life, he helped rebuild the spirits of veterans across the nation, proving that even the deepest wounds could be healed with the right support and a willingness to keep fighting. The Echo Company Veteran Support Fund quickly evolved into more than just an organization. It became a transformative movement across the nation. Under Chris Harper's passionate leadership, the fund expanded its reach, offering tangible support to veterans in need. What began as an effort to address immediate challenges, housing, healthcare, and job training, soon blossomed into a comprehensive initiative that tackled the root causes of the struggles faced by countless veterans. The fund's impact was profound. Veterans who had once felt abandoned found themselves with access to essential resources, from mental health services to financial aid and skill-building programs. The stories of transformation multiplied. Individuals who had been on the brink of despair were now securing stable jobs, reconnecting with loved ones, and reclaiming their sense of purpose. The fund's programs didn't just meet basic needs, they reignited hope and a sense of belonging. Chris traveled tirelessly, meeting veterans face to face, listening to their stories, and ensuring the fund remained responsive to their needs. His authenticity resonated with both those seeking help and those inspired to contribute. Communities rallied around the fund, hosting events, raising awareness, and joining the mission to honor and support veterans. As the movement grew, its ripple effects became undeniable. Veterans who once lived in the shadows stepped forward, encouraged by the success stories of others like them. Families were reunited and communities strengthened by the renewed participation of their heroes. The Echo Company Fund wasn't just changing lives, it was reshaping the way the nation viewed and supported its veterans, ensuring they were celebrated not just for their service, but for their resilience and humanity. The simple act of kindness extended by Donald Trump to Chris Harper in a cold Manhattan alley sparked a ripple effect that transformed countless lives. What began as a gesture to help one struggling veteran grew into a nationwide movement, reshaping how the country supported and honored its heroes. For Chris, that moment was a turning point and lifeline that helped him rebuild not just his life, but his sense of purpose. With Trump's support and the creation of the Echo Company Veteran Support Fund, Chris emerged as a leader and advocate, channeling his experiences into meaningful change. His story became a beacon of hope, inspiring other veterans to step forward and seek the help they needed. The fund didn't just offer resources, it restored dignity and rekindled a sense of community among veterans. The legacy of Trump's kindness extended beyond Chris. It ignited a national conversation about the challenges faced by veterans and the importance of recognizing their sacrifices. Communities rallied, policies were reformed, and lives were transformed. For Chris, every handshake, every shared story, and every success was a reminder of how one moment of compassion could lead to profound change. The movement became a lasting testament to the power of empathy, inspiring generations to ensure no veteran is ever forgotten. Please share your thoughts. Sometimes even a small idea can ignite the fire of powerful change.